Hi, my name is Niki, and this is The Interventionalist. Okay, I'm gonna flip this. So I'm in a different spot today. I'm thinking that these might be reflecting in that light, so I'm gonna take them off. Even though my eyes are so not good today. I'm in a different spot today. I didn't feel like I wanted to be on my couch. So now I'm sitting here, and I have tea, and I just feel like talking. So I thought, why not just set up the camera, and I can just talk. I want to talk about attachment styles. This is something I think about so much, and I've thought about so much over the past few years, especially as I'm like growing up and starting to get into relationships. And as I was sitting here, it just was racing through my mind, like all of this stuff about attachment styles, and I just feel like I need to talk about it. And I feel like it's one of the most defining aspects of our personality. So, for some context, there's a few different attachment styles. There's a dismissive avoidant, which means that you run from relationships. It's like, I'm not going to risk getting involved in that, you know? Then there's anxious, or like a fearful, and you attach, I would say like you attach really quickly and intensely, and you don't want them to leave you. It's like, everything's kind of rooted in abandonment issues. Like the dismissive, it's a way of avoiding being abandoned, and then anxious avoidant, or anxious is another way to try and avoid being abandoned by clinging. There's a disorganized, which is a mix of the two, which is what I am. And it's something I've talked about in therapy before, and also just researched on my own, because it's kind of like a Myers-Briggs, right? It makes you feel seen and understood. If you're interested in what yours is, you should look it up, because I feel like it starts to make a lot of things about yourself make sense. And like, I tend to have a lot of friends who are avoidant, which makes sense, because anxious people seek out avoidant people because they have been abandoned in the past, and so they are used to people that are dismissive of them, and so it's familiar. When you've experienced a childhood that didn't comfort you, wasn't there for you, and people were always leaving, even if it wasn't physically, emotionally, they weren't there. You had parents that were just emotionally vacant, or actually left, and that can make you cling really hard to those same kinds of people later on, because you're used to it. It's familiar, and almost like you get a chance to redo it. Like they left before, but this one won't, you know, like I can be better this time. I think a lot of people who are anxious become people pleasers, and I really struggled with being a people pleaser only up until this year. And I think when you're so anxious and you're so used to being dismissed, it's just easy to sort of repeat the same pattern over and over again, because you think maybe this time it'll be different, you know? Or like, if they throw you a bone, like some people, they know when somebody's really anxious, and they know when to say the right things so that they don't feel seen for like a second, you know? It's like, no, I do love you, like I was just busy, but they're actually not like going to be there for you at all. And so it like keeps this anxious person attached again, and then makes them feel like, no, this is different, like they really do care about me, but they continue this dismissive behavior. So it's this push and pull, and I think some people don't realize they're doing it. I'm not a dismissive avoidant person. I am like anxious avoidant, so I am a mix, but like I don't always think that people who are avoidant necessarily know what they're doing, because both are rooted in fear, and to be avoidant is also to be afraid of connecting deeply with someone, because it will end badly. Like that's how you know things to be. Like they will abandon you, or it'll end badly. So they might not always know they're doing it, but they tend to seek each other out, you know, because the anxious person wants like a redo, and it's familiar, and then the avoidant person, they feel wanted maybe in a way. And if they have someone who is so intensely attached to them, they won't leave. Like it's less likely they'll leave, and they are a perfect opposites attract kind of thing, but they're really destructive. Then there's a secure attachment style, which is kind of hard to have. You develop your attachment style really early on in life. I mean, like, I think it's around 6 months it starts to really come through, and it just is quite literally the little moments when you're an infant that your mom or dad or guardian did or didn't come and comfort you, and it can just have a lifelong impact without parents even realizing it, you know. Sometimes they're doing their absolute best and that it just happens, but it starts really early in your life, and so I think it's pretty easy for kids to end up with sort of a distorted attachment style. But some are secure, and secure means that you aren't terrified that people are going to abandon you. You can trust people easily. You trust yourself, and you know that it'll be okay if someone does leave you. You don't fear abandonment. Like both those other kinds, avoided and anxious, they fear abandonment. It's terrifying to them, but a secure person doesn't, because they'll be okay. I think that's why a lot of anxious people, maybe not avoidant, but maybe in their own way at the same time, end up in codependent relationships, because that fear of being left is driving you to never let something go, to do everything in your power to hold on to something as tight as you can, even if it's not good for you. And you can know it's not good for you. That's the weird thing. You can be cognitive dissonance. You can be totally aware that logically this is bad for you. You could be in a relationship where you see somebody treating you in this avoidant and dismissing you and just not being able to get a hold of yourself and act on it. It's like your body is on fire with a completely different emotion than the rationality that's in your head. You just can't. You can't fight it. It's really difficult to. Like, it takes a lot of, I think, practice and self-awareness. That is, even self-awareness sometimes isn't enough, you know, like when you're overwhelmed with emotions that have been ingrained with you since childhood. It's really difficult, you know. I don't think, it's not that easy to just stop, you know, to stop ending up in kind of bad relationships or repeating patterns and not being a people pleaser anymore. It's just not that easy, you know. So it's hard to change your attachment style. I've heard some people say it's impossible. You just cope with the one you have. I don't like that take. I think it's really depressing, but I do know some people say that. Anyways, I think that's depressing, and I don't necessarily agree with it, but I do think it takes a lot to mimic at least a secure attachment style, or know how to avoid letting yourself be driven by these sort of unhealthy attachment patterns. Maybe you can only mimic it, maybe you can change it altogether, I don't know, but it's really hard. And I heard some girl the other day online, she basically said you can't change your attachment style on your own. You have to find, or you can't get a secure attachment style on your own. You have to find somebody who brings it out of you. And then from there you learn, which is a really annoying thought, because I hate the idea that anything in your life is dependent on another person to, like, heal you or anything like that, I guess. And when I heard her say that, it bothered me for a second, and then it made a lot of sense, and it had me thinking about how, you know, it's one thing to say, like, in those early moments when you're a kid, yeah, your mom didn't come to you when you were crying, or no one was around enough when you were a baby, and or maybe, you know, they were hovering too much and it made you unable to cope with someone not being around. It's easy to think of those little moments when you're a kid, right? Because they don't really register in your head. It's just like, oh yeah, that must have happened, and they don't hurt, right? Like, those don't hurt. Those theoretical, conceptual things that must have happened when you were a baby, those memories don't hurt because you don't really have them. Even if your body holds on to them, you don't. Not the same way. And I was just, that had been in my head since she said that, and then I realized everything in your life, every moment has led up to what you are today, and has continued to push you in the direction of whatever attachment style it is you have. Whether it's starting to blossom into a better one, like a secure one, or it's starting to go further down the path of anxious or avoidant. But it's so much more than just those moments when you're a baby. And I know some people say you can never change it, but I think, yeah, maybe the first year of your life, everyone didn't come enough when you cried, but if you had someone after that, they're comforting you in the right moments, I don't think you probably would have ended up as anxious, right? I would like to think you would have ended up secure, but so much of your life and so much of your ability to attach to people and understand love and attachment and kindness comes from the moments after something that traumatized you instead of the moment itself. Like, when really bad things happen to us, what we remember the most and what sort of sets the trajectory of our healing comes from how people responded to us after. So the look on someone's face when you told them about something horrific that happened to you and you're a mess right now, like at this moment, you're completely vulnerable. Anything they say, like, is going to hit you to your core because you've broken open, right? It's like, imagine you're just like a puddle on the floor or a puzzle that's just been scattered, and this person in front of you, like, you just are sitting there completely scattered, and they have a chance, like, based on their response, to sort of mix around the puzzle pieces in a certain way that'll help you build a foundation that's a little bit stronger, and you're like, wait, no, they're kind, this other thing was brutal and horrific, but this person's kind, they're reminding me that people can be kind. Or they could scatter them more, and it's further ingrained into your body and your mind that this is what life is, this is what people are. They don't want to hear you, they don't want to be there for you. Don't. Like, if you show this emotion to me, I'm not going to lean in further and hug you. I'm going to look at the door and, like, be checking the time, you know? You sort of come to realize that if you share with someone your most vulnerable moments, the moments where whatever they say, you're going to take in more than any other moment in your life. You're going to be able to hear things that you could never hear before because you're in such a sensitive part of your life. If you do that with someone after something horrific and they just sort of justify the fact that I don't want to hear this, I don't want to take any emotional responsibility for this, so you learn not to share with people. You learn that that's a dangerous thing and it'll make them leave, and you get quiet and you keep it all inside, and you learn that abandonment comes from being honest and being yourself, and you are the problem. Because whether we like it or not, these things that have happened to us become us. They don't define us. The really bad moments in our life don't define us, but they become us. And so if someone's dismissing that part of you that has deeply affected you and defined your life, it's you who's being rejected. If you're you're being rejected. So instead you just, oh, my cat, I scared her. You reject yourself and you abandon yourself in honor of praising and pleasing the other person in every way possible so they don't leave, right? And it's little moments that our whole life. I used to think, I was like, fuck, like, there's nothing I can do about it. I can't go back and fix my childhood, but it's so much more than that. I was, like, sitting here, and I remembered a moment in high school, and it was after one of those things, where, like, one of those things happened that's it's going to force you to have to rebuild a foundation for yourself. It's going to break apart everything you ever knew, right? The ground beneath you is crumbled. And I just remembered a moment, like, a couple of days after, and I was that person, I was that puddle, I was like, or whatever, I was just completely open, and whatever was said to me in that moment I knew was going to hurt. And I think sometimes you can see it on people, I don't know. I've talked to people after they've gone through something bad, and I can just see it, and you become so careful with your words, right? Because you just can see it in their eyes that it's going to mean so much to them. I was in that moment. I had that moment. And I could feel it. I could feel my chest, like, opening, my heart opening in a way that was disgusting because it had been broken open. And, like, just got, like, a really I was, like, being forced to kind of discuss what had happened. I didn't want to, but I was, and I remember getting this just, like, deranged response, this really cold and emotionally crippling response. It was, and I just was thinking about it, and I was like, how different my life would have been if they responded differently. I don't think I would have been so, I don't know if I ever would have been, like, necessarily someone with a complete secure attachment, but I don't think I would have been so anxious or so messed up. I feel like sometimes it comes later in life more than it does earlier on, because it hurts differently, right? Like, I don't forget that. I don't know if my mom came to me when I was crying as a kid, but I won't forget that moment, and that shaped a huge part of who I was. And then I sought out relationships that mimicked that, and I didn't realize it until this past year, when it became incredibly evident. I couldn't miss it. I had to change. I couldn't keep doing this. It was bad, you know. I realized that I've sought out someone who will repeat those moments for me, who will remind me that this is what people are. And then you don't trust that somebody who responds in a good way is being honest. Isn't that weird? Like, you start to think that the response that you're used to, even though it's a cold and cruel response that you know you would never do to anyone else because you know it's bad, is the right one to be done to you. And you're not deserving of the other one. It sounds so cliche, doesn't it? But it's true. It's kind of unfair, right? Because it falls on you the same way it falls on other people, that it really is on other people to decide what kind of attachment style we're going to have going forward and how we're going to understand love. You can only teach yourself so much through loving yourself. And it takes a lot of time and a lot of good and bad experiences to sort of build a foundation for self-love even, but it's so much on other people, and that sucks. Like, to think that in your worst moment you just happened, like, the person that you could go to that maybe on another day would have been really great to you just destroys you and they don't even realize it. Or maybe they do and they just... But it's other people, and it's us. It's ourselves. You know? What moments have you been around someone and just... did the wrong thing? I don't know. I feel like that might be putting too much weight, though, on people who have good intentions, you know? Like, maybe not even good intentions. I don't know, maybe that's putting too much weight. This is something I do, like, I'm overthinking it, and then it's like trying to assess every interaction you ever had, trying to make sure you're a really good person. Ha! See, this is perfect example of, like, people-pleasing. Like, I'm, in my head, when I'm around people, I'm constantly aware of that. Like, if what I'm saying is going to hurt them, like, I need to be good, I need to be good, I need to be good. Like, you're so afraid of not being good. I don't know, there's just, like, I have this fear that, like, I'll never, after something really bad happened and it sort of implanted something in your mind that you're bad, you're impure, you're dirty. If this happened to you, you must be bad, or now you're ruined, right? You never know if you'll be good again, or clean again, or pure again, or if you were ever good. And so when you're around anyone else, or when I'm around anyone else, I just want to be good. I want to make sure I'm good to them. I don't want them to feel that way. It's to think that you cause somebody that harm. I think most people in the world, it makes you feel sick, right? Like, to actually really hurt somebody that way. And I feel like even saying that we, even with good intentions, could do that to somebody might be giving taking away some of the accountability for people who do it maliciously. I don't know if that sentence makes sense, but it makes sense in my head. Because we're really doing two different things, right? I think it takes away the idea that there's some people who know exactly what they're doing, and they do it anyways, right? They want to hurt you. They want to tear you down. I think some people, sometimes I think, and I'm speaking, I have to check this. My camera turns off at 30 minutes. Sometimes I think that abandonment issues and intimacy issues are written on your face. You can just see it on people sometimes. Just sometimes in the way you flinch when people are around you, or you sort of start hyperventilating when somebody starts showing you like kindness or starts to look like they're upset with you. You know, you can kind of, it's written on someone's face, and there are people who, they thrive on that because that's the perfect opportunity to strike and take advantage of that really vulnerable moment and utilize it. So either break you down further and make you more afraid that they'll leave, so you work harder to try and keep them and do what they want, or they just want to crush you. I don't think you should go through life afraid of it, because I don't want to go through life afraid of it anymore, that everyone's out to get you, you know, but it's just knowing that there's people who are capable of it, and I think I've learned as I'm trying to heal the way I attach to people that slower is better, because I'm losing my train of thought. I kind of lost my train of thought, but slower is better when you're attaching to people, because you can slowly, in small increments, test out how trustworthy they are, without going all in, you know. You can do little tests, like you tell them something slightly vulnerable and you see how they react to that, and you go like a month, and, you know, you do it slowly, and that's really hard when you're an anxious person. It's really hard to go slow. You want to cling. You want safety, and that safety, like in relationships, usually will come from commitment. So you'll want to be in a committed relationship really fast, even though you don't really know this person, and it puts you in a dangerous position while you're getting into a relationship. You know, you're not getting into it with a clear head, and you don't really see the person in front of you anymore. I think when you get into a relationship like that too fast, and you're really anxious, and you just need them to be the person that's not going to leave you, all you see is a projection, and you don't see the person, and they might not be a good person, you know, but they can take advantage of that. So you have to be careful, but not everyone in the world is out to get you, and I think when you have a distorted attachment style, it's trying to find a balance between being wary of people and being trusting. Life feels good when you trust other people, but life also is a lot safer when you have a healthy wariness of people. And striking that balance, you don't have a secure attachment, which they kind of already naturally have that balance, is hard. And it takes time, and my camera's going to turn off. Let me restart it really quick. Hold on. Okay, I had to restart my camera, but essentially, I don't really have a lot left I want to say, but I guess what I've been thinking a lot about and what I kind of just wanted to say was the things that have affected me the most in my life in regards to the way I attach to people and understand attachments and love and relationships, healthy relationships, has fallen into the moments that happened after the really traumatic things. You know, even if it's like from another person that you're trying to confide in after, or if it's from the person themselves, you know, it's a different kind of screwing you up when the person who actually hurt you then takes advantage of that moment where you're like a mess and utilizes it, you know. It's those interactions after. I don't know. It's not. I don't remember the moments themselves that fucked me up so much as I do the moments after, and it just sort of. I think realizing that has helped me realize what it is I need to actually focus on to heal my relationships, or my relationship to attachments, because yes, I need to think about and I need to focus on healing the moment, from the moment itself, the actual memory, but the memories and the feelings that came with some of the shitty responses that happened after, you know, or the neglect or the abandonment, you know. And those moments that I've mentioned before where someone just says something so crippling to you after you've already just, like, the world has fallen apart. That's what I need to think about more, because that's what sticks with me. That's what goes through my head, right? Like, I don't know. I get other memories from the moment of bad things, but more than anything, I remember the first sentence I heard after, you know, or the way the first person I ever told reacted. It dictated a lot of how I went forward with healing and understanding how to trust people and others and who people are and who am I, if not just something that needs to be good to others. They don't need to be good to me. Like, you start to, if you're an anxious person, you don't need someone to be good to you, because obviously they haven't been, like, you just need to be good to them. They can't leave you, right? You just don't want to hurt someone the same way either. And if you're anxious or avoidant, I think it's kind of the same thing. Like, getting attached to someone means you can hurt them. Like, they're putting a piece of you in your hands. And maybe avoidant people, I'm a little bit avoidant. Like, I know there have been moments where, like, I've sort of shied away from relationships because I know I'm scared I can't be there for them, right? I am at a point in my life where I think I'm leaning more and more to just feeling very secure. I trust myself. I know I can recognize good relationships and treatment, and I know that because I'm good to people, that people can also be good to me. And I've learned it, and I know I'm deserving of it, and I trust myself more, but I'm very aware that there's this tiny part of me, this, like, little void that was supposed to be filled. Like, from, like, my childhood, right, that was supposed to fill that little void, and there's always going to be that little part of me that's seeking it out and, like, wanting to be filled, and that love and security and comfort, it's supposed to be there, and sometimes it's from someone you can never get it from. Like, it's too late, or they'll never be able to give it to you. Like, maybe it's a parent or somebody who's passed away even, or, like, an old relationship, but, like, it's gone, and you can't change that. And I'm very aware of the fact that it was that little void that had me seeking out people to try and fill it who only reflected the person that created it. Because I have that hole for a reason, because of the way someone had treated me before, and I didn't understand, I didn't know the opposite. I really didn't, so I sought out the same behavior, thinking that it would fill that void, and it just makes a bigger one, and it hurts. It feels like someone's taking a knife and stabbing it, or ripping it open further. And so I find a lot of comfort in knowing that I will always be missing a little bit of that security, but that doesn't mean I can't be secure, You can be a little insecure, but you can still be secure, generally. And knowing that that part of me exists will help me at least recognize when I might be letting things slide from a partner or a friend that just perfectly reflects that behavior, because I know why I would want it, and I know that it is exactly the opposite of what I need and what I should have ever had. But I'm just continuing to understand. As I go further in my life and I am learning to make better choices, and I'm feeling more secure about the people in my life, and I'm finding myself in more and more interactions where I'm vulnerable with somebody, and they're giving me this kind response, and it's teaching me that somebody treating you badly in those moments is never justified, ever. And it's helping me heal the part of me that justifies it when somebody does, that lets it slide. And I've hope that that'll help me find a secure sense of attachment going forward. I don't know. It's kind of rambling, but I just don't want to be driven by this anxiety or this avoidance the rest of my life. It's hard. It sucks. And it's dependent so much on other people, and it's hard because you seek out what you know, and so until you have a wake-up call sometimes, or you're just going to keep seeking it out. Like, it's hard to get your foot on the ground when you're so used to being treated a certain way and behaving a certain way. So, it's not easy, but it's possible. I don't think anyone is stuck forever, stuck with anxious relationships or avoidant relationships. I think that's a sort of doomsday thought, and I don't like it, so I don't think you're stuck with that. I guess that's kind of all I have to say, but the last thing I'll say is, if you're like me, if you're somebody who finds themselves sort of becoming a wreck when they like someone or when they're trying to decipher whether or not someone likes them, like you're going to fall apart, but you also can't let it go because suddenly it means everything to you. I hope you know that you're not crazy and that you don't have to feel that way forever, and there is a way, and whatever way is going to be your way, that you can find peace within yourself and be able to have relationships and form new relationships without being overwhelmed and overcome with that dreadful, just shitty anxiety. You don't have to be stuck like that forever, and just know that all of the hurt and the damage and the feelings of like you're just ruined and messed up that you probably have, I see you. I see you, and you're not. You're just a little hurt, but you can heal. You're going to be okay. And to anyone who's avoidant, I know the parts of me that are, and when I've been in relationships and that came out of me, my biggest fear was feeling like I was never going to be able to feel deeply enough for somebody to fall in love or to connect, to really find connection again, like I was numb. It was that there's no hope for you to feel anymore, and you just want to feel, and you want to look at someone and love them the way you say other people love each other. If that's something you experience, I guess the same thing I just said, you're not doomed to feel that forever, or you're not doomed to not feel forever. You can get there again. It just, it takes the right time in your life and the right person and the right moment. We're not always ready to start fixing something. Sometimes you just have to wait. You have to be at the right spot in your life. But you will feel again. You're not going to be cold forever. And you're not a bad person because you've been sort of taught to shut off your emotions to survive. You'll still be able to fall in love. And you'll feel happy and good, and you won't be always feeling like you have to jump ship before they do, or because you're too close and it feels gross, Yeah, I guess that's all I have to say. This has just been on my mind all day, and I didn't drink any of my tea, but I do have a little cup that says thankful, and it's spearmint tea. Okay, yeah, that's all I have to say. Okay, sorry, I have one more thing to say. I wrote a little personal paper on this on my website, which is theinterventionalist.com. I'll put it in the description below, but if you related to this at all, maybe you want to read it. Okay, now that's actually all I have to say. Bye.